WSTU does not endorse products that may be mentioned. Any reproduction, retransmission of this broadcast is strictly prohibited without written consent of WSTU. It's time to call in with your questions and comments at 220-9788, 220-WSTU. And now, here's Casey Ingram.
Tired of lines at the boat launch, sun damage, or not using your boat because of the hassle? Call Meridian Marina and Yacht Club because we do all the work so you can enjoy your boating lifestyle. We store your boat inside, launch it with a wash with just 30 minutes notice, and rinse it down before putting it back. We do the work so you can enjoy your day on the water. Call us up at 772-221-8198. That's 221-8198, or visit us online at meridianmarina.com. Also, would like to remind everybody you can sign up for a weekly email notification of who the special guest will be at the Casey Ingram Show at my website, thecaseyingram.show.com. And also would like to ask everybody to ask your senator and representatives to support Florida Senate Bill 204 and House Bill 651. Many nurses are being assigned too many patients to care for, especially in critical care units. Seconds count with too many patients. It may be you or your loved one who pays the ultimate price with their life. Let's put patients and nurses above profits. Find out more information at nursestakeflorida.com. So on the line this evening, we have a very special guest, very much looking forward to speaking with Trevor Loudon. Trevor, are you with us?
I sure am, Casey. How are you?
I am very well. Appreciate you taking time out of your very busy schedule. Trevor is a New Zealand author, speaker, political activist, and he's the author of two books, actually three books now, on U.S. politics, Barack Obama and the Enemies Within, and the Enemies Within Communists, Socialists, and Progressives in the U.S. Congress, which was made into a documentary in 2016, and you can find that on Amazon. And he also has a new book, White House Reds, Communist, Socialist, and Security Risk Running for the U.S. President 2020. So that is just being published. Am I correct?
Well, it is. It's coming out March 1st. So yeah, it should cause a little bit of a ripple, I'm hoping.
Well, Trevor, first question is, and I know you get asked that a lot, is, why does a guy from New Zealand care about American politics?
Well, look, I come from a country that was saved by America during World War II. We were facing invasion by the Japanese, and if it hadn't been for thousands of young American boys fighting, defeating the Japanese at Midway and Coral Sea, etc., we would have been invaded. So anybody who cares about liberty, who cares about freedom, has to care about the United States. Because if the U.S. goes down, we all follow. But if the U.S. does well and restores the Constitution and gets back on track, it'll benefit everybody who loves liberty. So this is really the front line for freedom here.
And Trevor, you have been on a lot of different talk shows, One American News Network. You've been around a lot, and you're following the politics very closely, and especially right now, President Trump. He is going to be running for his second term in office. And, tell us what your view is internationally of our president.
Well, look. What you're seeing internationally is a rise of new populist movements. Nationalist movements. Brazilians want to run Brazil. The French want to run France. The British want to run Britain. New Zealanders want to run New Zealand. This is a very novel idea. It's because we've been going down the globalist road for a long time now. And these people are looking at what's happening in America and what's happening with President Trump. The globalists and the left hate Trump. The patriots, the small business people, the nationalists, they love him because and you got a real battle royal looming. Which way is this planet going to go? Are we going to go towards globalism, and is freedom going to be extinguished forever? Or are we going to restore national sovereignty and individual liberty around the globe and have a great and free and prosperous future? That's what people are looking at. So they're very, very interested in how things are going to turn out in America, because how America goes is how all the rest of us will go.
It's very interesting, and I've listened to some of your talks and certainly watched the documentary. Um, you had talked about how much socialism has already infiltrated our Congress. Something to the tune, I think, that you said about 20% of Senate and House members.
Yeah, that how I say it is this: see, people need to understand that when you apply for a government job, you used to, you would get an FBI background check. They would check out your family background, your criminal convictions, your dodgy relatives, or radical political affiliations, and make a decision whether you're a fit person to work in the federal government. But if you run for Congress or the U.S. Senate, you can be appointed to the Homeland Security Committee, the Armed Services Committee, or even the Intelligence Committee, like Adam Schiff, and you will have no background check whatsoever, none whatsoever. Now, do you think that the Chinese know this?
Absolutely.
You think that the Venezuelans and the Cubans and the Iranians and the Russians know about this? And do you think maybe they would use their money and influence to try and get their people into the American Congress to work on their behalf? That's like how we got an Iran nuclear deal, for instance. That's how we got very, very soft policies on trading with China for many years. That's how we got the trade and travel restrictions lifted on Cuba, because 20% at least of U.S. Congress members and U.S. senators are basically working for the other team. They couldn't pass any form of background check to drive a school bus. They couldn't clean the toilets at any military base in the country. But because there are no background checks, they're running Homeland Security, Armed Services, Intelligence, Judiciary, you name it, and they are working to trash the Constitution every single chance they get.
Well, it's certainly something we see with every election cycle is how much money is poured into these campaigns. And Trevor, it just seems like it comes down to who can raise the most.
Well, money is a big part of it. See, some of these people are betraying the country for money. Some are doing it through ideology. Like someone like Barbara Lee from California. She's been working for the communists her entire life. And she just recently moved a resolution in the House to restore the Iran nuclear deal. So, and she was joined by Jan Schakowsky of Illinois, a long-time member of Democratic Socialists of America, a Marxist. So people like that do it out of ideology. But there are many senators who are getting money from the Iranians through the National Iranian Iranian American Committee and other groups. These are front groups for Iran, funding your senators and congressmen to promote things like the Iran nuclear deal, which gave the Iranians hundreds of millions of American dollars, which they now use to attack Americans with. So some of them are doing it through money. Look, Iran elected 4 members of Congress last election cycle. They flipped 4 seats from Republican control to Democrat control, 1 in Virginia and 3 in Southern California. This is the kind of influence that foreign governments have. And it isn't just Iran, it's China too, it's Cuba, it's several other countries. And Americans got to understand just how deep this goes.
And that's one thing with this election coming up. President Trump was the candidate that really came in. He came in as a Republican, as a conservative, but he wasn't owned by either party. He is a businessman, and he really, he said he's running because he loves America. And I think you said it yourself. He's a reprieve right now, not a savior. We need to make sure that we continue to go on a strong conservative path. With re-electing President Trump, for example, the Supreme Court. Something you had mentioned was Ruth Ginsburg wants to move to your country, New Zealand.
Yeah. Well, I joke in my speeches. I say, well, See, President Trump, one of the greatest legacies he will leave this country is the number of conservative judges, constitutionalist judges he's put in all the various circuits. Even the radical left-wing Ninth Circuit is now almost conservative. But the real big deal is the Supreme Court, because, the left have run the Supreme Court for 60 years, and they make all these bad decisions, they call them precedent, and they pile another bad decision on top of that. So 70% of what your federal government now does is unconstitutional. So thanks to Trump, now we have a 5-4 majority on the Supreme Court. And we know that Roberts is a flake, but he usually votes the right way, usually anyway. Well, Ruth Bader, if Trump gets in again, Ruth Bader Ginsburg is getting pretty old. And she has publicly said she'd love to come and retire in New Zealand. So I say, well, I'm willing to take one for the team.
Yes.
She could come down to New Zealand, she can play bingo all day long, and you will have a 6-3 majority on the Supreme Court. That is going to preserve your religious liberties. You can revisit Roe v. Wade. It'll save your gun rights. It'll do a whole bunch of things that conservatives have been trying to do for years. That alone, just that one thing alone, should be more than enough reason to re-elect President Trump.
And the Supreme Court truly is one of the most important institutions we have to decide, as you said, to hold up the Constitution.
Yeah, look, why is America great? Why is America rich? Because you have a constitution that guarantees personal liberty, that gives the people the certainty to go out and do business deals, to build churches, build great schools, do all of these things. You take that liberty away, you take the engine that drives America away, you will be poor like everybody else real quick when you lose your freedom, if you lose your freedom. So, like Donald Trump Jr. said recently, he said the 2020 election will be communism versus freedom. And he was not exaggerating. The Democrat Party is now a communist party. Of the top 12 Democrats currently running for president, 10 have Marxist backgrounds, including Biden and Buttigieg and Amy Klobuchar, the 3 so-called moderates. All of them are radical leftists.
Wow.
So this is where America is. The Trump agenda either carries on, we have more freedom and more prosperity, a virtuous cycle, or it comes to a grinding halt and we have socialism, and it won't be long before America is down the Venezuela road.
I have a quick question here from a viewer from Facebook. RJ Posey, can you explain how many conservative Republicans are just right side of the Republicans? So just on the right, not strongly conservative.
So I didn't quite understand the question. Sorry.
I think he's asking, can you explain how many conservative Republicans are just on the right side of the Republicans? So he's saying they're not truly strong conservatives. They call themselves Republicans, rhinos.
Yeah, well, look, I would say this is how I look at it. The Democratic Party is now a communist party. The Republican Party is basically 3 factions. You've got the conservative constitutionalists, which are probably about 20% of them. You've got the big government progressives, which are probably about 30% of them. And the rest are just in the middle and will go with whichever way the wind blows.
Mm-hmm.
And right now they're going with President Trump. So we're getting a few things done. So if we win the next election, the big government progressives will be defeated. I'm talking, Mitch McConnell and people like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll see a newer, more constitutionalist, more progressive Republican Party. If they win, the pro-Republican Party will basically be destroyed and we will have socialist government forever. So, we're hanging on. We've got the president, we've got a handful of conservative constitutional Republicans, just a handful, and we've got the grassroots. That's it. We don't have the Republican Party in general on our side. We have the grassroots of the GOP and a little bit of the leadership and a whole bunch of the leadership that really doesn't care about America.
That's absolutely, I agree with you. It's grassroots is what it comes down to.
Yep.
We had our Tea Party that rose, and now, it was really taken down and destroyed pretty quickly, the Tea Party. But that was a grassroots effort to make sure that America remains conservative and a free democracy.
Yeah. We owe a huge debt to the Tea Party, because there never would have been a President Trump without the Tea Party. We would have had Obamacare rammed down our throat. We would have had immigration amnesty, which would have destroyed the Republican Party and conservatism, and the Tea Party stopped both of those things and gave us a chance to do what we're doing now.
I have another question from Becky Bruner. Sir, could the Iranians rise and win with a revolution to throw out the government with President Trump's full support?
Yeah, I think that's a possibility. I think the Iranian government is on the back foot right now. The people are grateful to Trump. They want to throw off this government. See, when the Iranian people rose in the Green Revolution under Obama, Obama did nothing, and thousands of people died. The people want to get rid of the mullahs, and now that they see President Trump's on their side, they are chafing at the bit. They are ready to rise. So I am all for what President Trump is doing in Iran. We must be aiming for regime change. That must be the goal. And by President Trump doing what he's doing, taking a hard line with the Iranian government, that will encourage the Iranian people to throw off the tyrants. And it won't just be Iran either. It could spread way beyond that. So full marks to the president for standing with those people.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let's talk about the election a little bit. I found this very interesting. Which state contributed the most money to Trump's presidential campaign in 2016?
Well, I don't know if it was the most money, but the state that contributed the most personnel was California.
Which is shocking.
They had 300,000 Trump volunteers in that state.
Wow.
They had 10,000 on the phone banks any one night. They won Michigan and North Carolina and Pennsylvania and Arizona, all critical states, out of California.
Because they
when you get out of the big cities, you got tons of patriots in California, just like you have tons of patriots all through Florida. But you got the liberals, the left in Miami and Orlando that sort of drag things down a bit. But yeah, look, if we get our base out, we get our people out, we will blitz this election and we will smash the left for a very long time. But we got to get our people out. We cannot be complacent about this.
No, nobody can take anything for granted, and this election is extremely important coming up this year.
Look, Florida, the left almost won with a communist, Andrew Gillum, in 2018, and he is a communist, full on. And he's out there right now with lots of Soros money and Tom Steyer money, trying to get 1 million new Democrats for Florida. And that's how he almost won, because he put all his money into mobilizing the black and Latino populations of, Orlando and Miami and Fort Lauderdale and Jacksonville. People who didn't normally vote, he mobilized those. And we just won. While he's out there trying to get another 1 million together, they've got the communists organized that referendum. They've got 1.4 million felons the right to vote in Florida. So Trump cannot, it's going to be very hard for Trump to win the election without Florida. So we have to make Florida happen. This is ground zero here.
And Florida is really and has been a decision state. And you're right, it was frightening how close the election was last time around. We've got nearly 1,000 people moving here every day. It's something that...
And most of them are not coming from conservative places.
No, they're not. They're not.
So we got to win Florida. We absolutely have to win. And we can, because a lot of the people who come here, even though they might come here as liberals, A lot of them do convert when they get here, but a lot of them don't too. So, if we mobilize our base in Florida, and especially the Christian churches, we will win. But if we sit back and think it's all in the bag, we will lose and we will regret it for the rest of our lives.
Here's another interesting comment. Julie Griffin said, slowly you can see Trump supporters more comfortable in coming out. There's still many who are afraid of retaliation from the left mob mentality. And that's true.
That is a big issue, like where I live on the West Coast, you can wear your Trump hat all day long, and you'll get lots of support. But that's not true of all over Florida. In some parts of the country, it's an invitation for an assault.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we got to fly the flag. We got to. People are inspired by bravery. Courage is contagious, and so get out there, wear your Trump hat, wear your American flag. Just be bold about this. We're fighting for our country here. And we're not asking you to get out there with guns and bullets. That's never do I want to see that happen. Get out there with your gear. Get out there with your hat and your flag and your signs. Just be bold about this, because we need every single part of our base to the polls this election cycle.
What other states do you feel are a toss-up for Trump? Certainly Florida is one.
Yeah, North Carolina. See, so we're going to do well in the Midwest. The left have lost a lot of the Midwest. Those sort of white union guys out in Pennsylvania and Ohio and Michigan, they're sick of the Democrats. That's not where we're going to lose. If we lose, it's going to be in Florida and Texas and North Carolina and Arizona.
Texas?
Yep, absolutely. Texas is so close to going blue, you would not believe. North Carolina's on the edge. Florida's Arizona's on the edge, and so is Georgia. The left are pouring their resources into the southern states because the southern states have large Black and Latino populations who are locked-in Democrats but don't normally vote. That is where they're going. And they're running candidates of color like Andrew Gillum and Stacey Abrams. And this is where the real battleground's going to be. It isn't going to be Ohio, Pennsylvania maybe. It's not going to be Michigan. We'll probably win Minnesota. The big danger states are Arizona, Florida, North Carolina, Georgia, and to a degree Texas. Texas, maybe not this cycle, but 2 or 3 cycles down the road, Texas will flip unless we do something real urgent. And when we lose Texas, we lose the country.
Oh, that is a frightening thought to even think about, and I certainly didn't realize Texas was on the verge myself. So,
look, Texas, they are going to have a huge Senate race in Texas as well. They're running a Marxist, Christina Simpson. She's a Marxist of color against a very weak John Cornyn, and they got an idiot like Beto O'Rourke within 3 points of Ted Cruz. Right?
Yes.
They're going to have a much better candidate in Christina Simpson against a much weaker candidate in John Cornyn. Texas is very much in play.
Well, it was definitely quite surprising, the governor election last time with Andrew Gillum. We had Gwen Graham running on the Democratic ticket. I mean, she seemed like she would be getting the nomination for certain, and he just kind of came out of nowhere.
Look, I was in Gainesville when Andrew Gillum was on 7% and Gwen Graham was on 23%. And I told them all at that meeting that Andrew Gillum would be the candidate. And of course, nobody believed it, because what I do is I follow the Marxist press and what they're doing. Liberation Road, which is the pro-Chinese communists, they are the people who got the referendum passed. They are the people out there backing Gillum and signing up hundreds of thousands of Black and Latino voters in the suburbs of Fort Lauderdale and whatever. And those people are never polled because those people never vote. Well, now they do, because the Soros and the Stiers are putting several $1 million into this. They've got all these radical activists going out there signing up all these black and Latino voters, and they ran a black candidate to harvest that. That's the new paradigm. This is a rerun of Jesse Jackson's Rainbow Coalition of the 80s. He had the idea you get all the minorities together until you get a majority. Well, they know that minorities plus progressive whites are actually a majority now. If you add the white locked-in Democrats to the minorities, they actually have a majority in most states, and they certainly do in Florida. What has saved us up till now is a lot of those minorities just don't bother voting. Well, that's where the money is going. They're not going to spend all these billions of dollars trying to convince 2% of swing voters in Ohio to flip. They're coming into the southern states where there are millions of Democratic-leaning voters who normally stay home. That's who they're going for.
Trevor, we have about a minute left. Who do you think is the Democratic candidate we need to watch out for against President Trump?
Probably Deval Patrick right now. Look. I thought it was going to be Kamala Harris. She was destined to be the one, but what I think it's going to turn out being is Joe Biden is going to run with Kamala Harris on his VP ticket. I think Bernie's going to collapse. I think Elizabeth Warren's going to make it. Right now, I'm thinking Joe Biden with Kamala Harris.
Interesting, and I could see that ticket as well. So, but I also think that President Trump would do very well in debates against Biden.
Oh, absolutely. They're really in trouble. They've got terrible candidates. If Deval Patrick can sneak through, he might be a possibility. And you never know about Bloomberg, but I can't see that. So, but what they absolutely must have is a candidate of color.
Okay.
And they were hoping it was going to be Deval, Cory Booker or Kamala Harris. Both of those have faded out. Deval is their only hope, but I think he's not going to make it. So I think they're going to have to go with Joe Biden with Kamala Harris. And Joe Biden's useless, but Kamala will bring a lot of the black vote in.
Right. Well, Trevor Loudon, thank you so much for joining us by phone. We're now out of time. Again, you can see his documentary right on Amazon, The Enemies Within, and the new book is coming out in March, White House Reds, Communist, Socialist, and Security Risk, Running for U.S. President 2020.